Welcome to Health Vision. I'm Jackie Wolf, Associate Professor of Social Medicine at Ohio University. This is the third of a three-part series on organ donation. Last week we heard the stories of Morgan Mathews, a recipient of a donated liver, and Cynthia Tindongan, who donated a kidney. And we're going to continue their stories today. We got up, as I recall, we got up as far as both of you. Cynthia, you were about to go into surgery to have your kidney removed, and Morgan, you were about to go into surgery to receive a liver.
Yes.
Let's recap a little bit for viewers who might not have caught last week's show, because your stories were incredibly interesting. Cynthia, you, and we'll do this really quickly, it's very unusual for someone to decide that they want to donate a kidney, but you had thought about that for a long time. You had thought about what that meant in terms of basically a gift of life. As you put it last week, you said, I had two kidneys, I only needed one. Let's talk a little bit, we were talking kind of after the last show about how you talk to your children, because you do have actually you have 5 children, because you also have a stepson.
Right.
And you had to talk to them and your husband about your decision to donate a kidney. And share for our viewers what you were saying about how you, the ways that you prepared your children for the surgery that you were going to have.
Well, one of the things we did was we watched some videos about donation, and they weren't particularly interested in those. But as the surgery got closer and it became more a part of our sort of daily conversation, they were sort of making jokes and playing games about having surgery. And so I went and bought them the board game Operation. Do you remember the one where you put the tweezers in and you have to pull out the funny bone and the things like that, so that they could sort of, you know, have fun with it, and they really did enjoy it very much. It was, and I've recommended that to other families.
And you said they even did mock surgeries on each other.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Especially on your youngest, they decided she was going to be the patient, and they were going to.
Yeah, and I wanted to save her. When she saw the box of Operation with the picture on the front of it, she went running into the other room, thinking that we were going to do something to her. And I said, no, this is a game that you get to play. You get to be the surgeon this time.
And Morgan, you said last week, I mean, you really had grown up. You grew up knowing that you had a disease that would affect your liver, and you kind of grew up preparing yourself for this probable inevitability. And so you, in a way, too, were being prepped for what was going to happen ultimately.
Yes, very much.
Yeah. Okay. So when we left you, you were, they had just, basically they'd given you the anesthesia. You'd been prepped for surgery. And you were going to go, you knew a few facts about your donor. You knew your donor was a 17-year-old boy, and he had been killed the previous evening in an auto accident.
Yes.
Did you know where he was from? Was he from the area?
He was from Canton.
From
So
Canton.
it was for a liver, it was out of my region. So that liver was not going to be coming to my region. So the direct donation that the family did gave me that chance.
Oh, explain that a little bit, what that meant, what it meant that it wasn't going to be, that it was out of your region, out of our region. We talked about that a little bit about in the first part of our series, how decisions are made, that there's a national bank, that they monitor the different people on the list based on need, strictly on need, and also on who's a good match, who can actually use the organ. So when you say out of the region, meaning that this accident happened in Canton, and there was no one in that, and by regions, you're talking about an organ donation region, that they actually have the country divided up by region.
Well, what I'm saying is that the liver out of the body is only good for so many hours, and usually they will try to have it within the region so that it's closer, has more time on ice, or before it goes into the recipient. So it wouldn't be something that would have usually come to where I was. But since this happened, they went ahead and sent somebody from Ohio State in a helicopter. I don't know if it was a helicopter or a plane, but to go get it so that we could make it work here at Ohio State.
Most likely it probably was a helicopter, and certainly that's the way you see it on television.
Yeah.
Although we did try to bust a lot of those myths in the first show. Most of the stuff that you see on television really is complete myth. But it is, I mean, there's a time factor involved here, because organs obviously don't last forever. They last as long as someone is alive, but once it's not in a living body, you need to keep that organ very carefully preserved in a very timely fashion, and then get it into a living body as quickly as you can. So the transplant team actually went to Canton to pick up the organ, and they then flew it back to Ohio State University where
Yes.
you were going to have the surgery.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so so you're in surgery.
Okay.
You have this, and let me ask you about livers, because I know livers can regenerate.
Mhm.
So I'm curious about whether or not they can just actually divide up a liver and use parts of livers for multiple people.
You can use half of a liver for, in my case, my liver was, the whole liver was bad in my body. So for me to succeed in a transplant, I needed a whole liver.
Okay.
So,
So in your case, you were given
Yeah.
the entire liver.
Mhm.
Tell us when you were first aware then. You were in surgery. When were you first aware of coming out of surgery?
I've tried to think back of that exact moment because I was always thinking, well, what will it be like when I wake up? But I don't remember the exact moment, but I do remember being in the ICU, and I had some problems with breathing, so I was put back on the respirator, and so that I remember having that and being sedated for a couple days, and then after that, I was then taken to a regular room, and just getting up and walking around was a big deal.
Okay.
But I felt 100% better.
Okay, let's get back to that. And let's especially get back to how you were feeling afterwards. But let's go to Cynthia now, because you were right at that same stage too, as we started out with Morgan, that you had, we talked about how you had physical screening, you had mental health screening, because it's quite unusual for someone to, and you had to call around to find out how you could donate a kidney.
Right.
And of course, one thing that they would be wary of is they want to check out your mental health, because they want to make sure what would your motives be? Have you thought this through? Do you understand the consequences for your own body, your own family?
Right.
And you had been through all those screenings.
Right.
And we mentioned on the last show, one of the very last things they did was they gave you one very last minute opportunity to change your mind right before you went into surgery. Describe that moment.
Well, they had suited me up and given me an IV, and I talked to the anesthesiologist, and I talked to the surgeon, and he came in and he made a line on my side where he was going to go in. And I kidded with him, and I said, let's make this scar this incision as small as possible. And he told me he thought he could get it down. I had what's called a mini open surgery, and
almost like laparoscopy.
No, that's a little bit different. My incision was about 4 inches. The laparoscopic, they do it in different ways and different places, but mainly it's a couple of very small incisions, maybe 1 inch, and then there's another incision that's just a little bit larger, and they pull the kidney out through that. Well, my surgeon doesn't do that kind of surgery, and so he was going to do the mini open. They used to take incisions as big as like 10 inches and take part of the rib, and mine was much simpler than that. And so I met the anesthesiologist, and the nurse asked me, before I give you this juice that's going to put you out, I need to ask you one more time, and she did. And I just answered her right away. I knew